All right, so we did this last month, but there's been a few things that's happened across Major League Baseball, so I decided I needed to update my list for my top 10 trade candidates for the trade deadline this year. And I know we're still a little ways away from that, but like I always say, it's never too early to talk trades on this channel. So I'm going to give you my updated top 10 list with some honorable mentions. Let's start there. Everyone's been talking about Rafael Devers as of late, ever since he said no to playing to first base, said he's not feeling comfortable with it, said the team already asked him to be the DH, so he didn't want to make another move. But then there's a whole bunch of other people saying out there, well, you got to put the team first. That's the most important thing. If he moves to first base, that can open up another spot in the lineup for someone like Masataka Yoshida possibly returning, maybe calling up Roman Anthony, the top prospect in baseball. So I see arguments for both sides, but a lot of people have mentioned that maybe the Red Sox could look into a trade if the relationship has completely soured. Now, I'm going to say no on that one. I just think he's going to be too difficult to move, especially in season. I mean, it's going to be very hard for the Red Sox to replace this kind of production on the fly. This guy's been red hot as of late, hitting 285, a 407 on base, slugging at a 494, a 150 WRC plus, 7 homers. He got off to that dreadful start at the beginning of the year, but he's been one of the best hitters in baseball since then. I just don't see the Red Sox moving him again. He's making a lot of money, 10-year, $313.5 million contract. They're going to have to eat some of that contract because as of right now, he is really just a DH, so he is a bit underwater on that contract. So I just don't see the Red Sox moving him, especially since they want to contend. But could we maybe get to a point like Manny Ramirez back in 2008 when the relationship had just completely soured? The Red Sox had to move on despite being in contention that year. Remember, they brought in Jason Bay in that three-way trade. Remember Nomar Garciaparra back in 2004? The Red Sox had World Series aspirations that year. Nomar Garciaparra was an icon in Boston, but unfortunately, the relationship soured over contract disputes. They ended up moving Nomar. They brought back Orlando Cabrera, Doug Mientkiewicz, and they ended up winning a World Series for crying out loud. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it's pretty unlikely. You got someone like Pablo Lopez. This guy's an absolute workhorse, off to another great start this year with the Twins. 7 starts, ERA to 2.77, FIPA to 2.52. Teams would love to add someone like Pablo Lopez, a proven performer in the postseason as well, on a team-friendly deal. Now, the only problem with Pablo Lopez is the Twins have been playing great baseball as of late. 21-20 as of right now, but they've won 8 straight games at the time of this recording. So who knows what the Twins' plans are going to be at the deadline. But if they start to drop off a little bit, then I could see teams definitely making a phone call for Pablo Lopez. Same thing with Framber Valdez, off to another solid start this year. This guy has also been a workhorse over the last several years, but he is a free agent after this coming season. And the Astros are at 500 right now. So if they're kind of hovering around that mark at the trade deadline, then I could definitely see them moving him, but we'll just wait and see what unfolds a bit more with the Astros moving forward. Now, Freddie Peralta, I don't think the Brewers are going to move him. The Brewers are always trying to stay in contention every single year, but if a team approached them and said, hey, we'll give you an absolute haul of a package to get someone like Freddie Peralta, he is going to be a free agent after this coming year if the Brewers don't exercise the club option, but I think they will. So in the end, I don't think Freddie Peralta is going to get moved, but I could see teams making phone calls. Again, the Brewers, they like to stay in contention. And we go to the Blue Jays now. Speaking of starting pitching, a guy that's been a workhorse, Chris Bassett. This guy's off to a very good start this year for the Blue Jays, but again, same thing. The Blue Jays are kind of in the thick of things right now, so we're going to have to play a little bit more wait and see. Bo Bichette is having a fantastic bounce back season. Horrible season last year, but he's doing very well so far this year, hitting 281, a 330 on base, 105 WRC plus. He looks healthy. Again, if the Blue Jays fall out of it, I definitely think teams will make a phone call about Bo Bichette to try and help upgrade their lineup. And we also got a couple of guys on the Cardinals, Nolan Arenado and Ryan Helsley. They were in my top 10 list for April, but things have gotten rather interesting for the Cardinals since then. They've won 9 straight games at the time of this recording. They're in second place in the NL Central, 23-19. So who knows what the Cardinals' plans are going to be. Now, with the Cardinals, there weren't a lot of expectations coming into the year. They're kind of going through a bit of a transition year. Nolan Arenado, he was in trade rumors this past offseason with Ryan Helsley. So who knows what the plan is going to be for the Cardinals, but if they keep playing like this, I don't see how they could trade these guys. But for now, the guys that I mentioned here, they're honorable mentions. We still have to wait and see what ends up happening with these teams moving forward. Also, everyone, just wanted to let you know that we are partnered with Underdog Fantasy here, so make sure to download the app using the code HYDE to get up to $1,000 in bonus credits. They have promos all the time and cool ways to play each week, like over-unders and daily fantasy. So if you want to put your expertise to the test, go check it out, use the code HYDE, and as always, play responsibly. At number 10, I got Yandy Diaz. Now, he is on the restricted list as of right now. He's having problems with his passport, so he can't travel with a team to Toronto. But we all know what Yandy can do with the bat. He's been one of the most solid hitters in the game for the last few years. Going back to 2022, he's hitting .296 with a .375 on base, a .448 on the slugging. This guy could definitely help a team's lineup out there. Off to a bit of a slow start so far, only hitting .238, .291 on base. Does have a .400 slugging and 99 WRC+. But again, I'm leaning into the track record with Yandy. And as of right now, the Rays, they're 18-22, under 500. Sure, they're in the thick of things in the wild card hunt, but really with the Rays, I still think they have their eyes on the future a little bit here. He is under a pretty team-friendly contract as of right now, which runs through 2026. So I could see the Rays taking advantage of that value and cashing in on it while they still can. At number 9, I got a trio of Angels bats. Now, the Angels in the first couple of weeks of the season were showing a couple of good things, but as of late, they're starting to fall back. 17-23, 3.5 games back in the wild card race isn't impossible to overcome, but coming into the year, there weren't a whole lot of expectations for the Angels. Mike Trout is injured again, unfortunately, so I'm just not very confident about the Angels moving forward here. Who knows? Maybe they can get red hot here, but I'm just going with what I see right now. And if they do indeed end up being sellers of the deadline, then they got a trio of bats that I think could be interesting. Taylor Ward, he's been on the rumor mill for the last couple of years now, had a solid season last year, hitting 25 home runs. Now, he is off to a bit of a slow start this year, hitting 190, a 232 on base, but the slugging at a 405 isn't terrible, but the WRC plus a 71. So he's going to have to get himself going, but again, he has a track record of giving you some pretty decent power from the right side of the plate. You also got someone like Jorge Soler. Remember, he was a big trade deadline piece a few years ago, helping the Braves win the World Series back in 2021. He got moved last year as well to the Braves. So Jorge Soler, we know the deal with him. He could definitely give you some good power from the right side. Not a great start so far this year, slugging at a 419, a 103 WRC plus, but again, focusing on the track record, this guy could definitely give you some pop. But I'm also looking at Yoan Moncada. They signed him to a one-year, $5 million deal this past offseason to try and, get himself back on track in his career. This is a former top prospect in the game, and he's shown some really good things in his career, but he's had a problem staying on the field over the last several years. But if he's healthy, I think there's a talented player here, and there's some very solid numbers here. Now, he has been injured a bit this season. He's only played 15 games, but in those games, hitting 244, a 393 on base, a 511 on the slugging, a 156 WRC plus. So when he's healthy, again, I think he can do some good things. He's on a very cheap deal, and if he's playing well at the deadline, I could definitely see a team out there looking to try and grab him. And for the Angels, they'd be able to get a decent package for him. At number 8, I got Tyler Anderson. Sticking with the Angels here, and Anderson's off to a pretty solid start so far this year. 8 starts, 45 1/3 innings pitched, ERA at a 2.58. That's not bad at all, but the FIP is 2 full runs higher at a 4.59, so pay attention to that moving forward. Now, the reason it's higher is because he doesn't strike out a whole lot of guys, 7.7 strikeouts per 9 so far, and right around 1.4 home runs per 9. So when you have that recipe, that's going to give you a pretty high FIP. So again, pay attention to him moving forward. But what I like about Tyler Anderson, he's a veteran guy. He's going to give you innings. So I could definitely see a team out there looking to add him, for a postseason push to give them some innings down the stretch. He is in the final year of his contract. So, he's going to be paid a little bit in the second half, but I don't think it's anything crazy. I could definitely see Tyler Anderson getting moved by the deadline if the Angels continue to fall out of it. At number 7, I got Kyle Finnegan. Now, he was on the trade block last year, ended up staying put with the Nationals at the deadline, but with Finnegan, this is a guy with good stuff, good velo, but the one problem with Finnegan is he hasn't been able to get a whole lot of strikeouts over the last couple of years. 8.1 per 9 back in 2023, right around 8.5 per 9 last year, but you're thinking this is a guy who averaged 97.5 miles per hour at the fastball. You'd be thinking he'd be maybe getting a few more strikeouts, but this year, despite the velocity being down on average 96 miles per hour, he's still getting some more swing and misses, 9.2 strikeouts per nine, and he hasn't given up a home run so far. So we're definitely seeing a better Kyle Finnegan so far this year. ERA at a 3.07, FIP at a 2.50, and when it comes to the saves, he's got 12 saves already. Now, with the Nationals, I was wondering if they were going to take a bit more of a step forward this year, but right now it looks like there's still going to be a no man's land by the deadline, so I could definitely see teams lining up for Kyle Finnegan. Now, another big difference with him, again, he is getting more strikeouts, but he's getting more swing and miss in the zone. If we go back to 2024 here, lots of blues for the whiff percentage in the zone last year, but this year he's attacking the corners a lot more and he's getting a lot more swing and miss there. So it's really all about the location for Finnegan, especially since his best pitch is his fastball. Last year, batters are hitting 286 against it with a 429 in the slugging, but this year only hitting 167 against it. So with Finnegan, he's found a way to improve this year, and if he keeps this up, I definitely think he'll be a hot commodity by the deadline. At number 6, I got Ryan O'Hearn. What the heck's going on with the Baltimore Orioles? 15-24 as of right now, 8 back in the division, 5 back in the wild card. This team has a lot of talent, but man, oh man, have they underperformed up to this point. The starting pitching has been dreadful. They've had a lot of injuries, so who knows what's going to happen with the Orioles moving forward. I still think they have the potential to turn things around because they have a lot of talent. Kind of reminds me of the Astros and the Mets from last year, but again, you're going to need some starting pitching, so let's see what happens with the Orioles. The differences with those teams last year, the Astros and the Mets, is they had starting pitching. The Orioles, though, very thin on it, so let's see what happens here moving forward. But if they indeed end up being sellers at the deadline, then they got a couple of guys I think they could definitely deal. And we'll start off with Ryan O'Hearn here. Holy cow, this guy's off to a good start this year. 30 games, hitting 303, a 395 on base, a 556 on the slugging, a 174 WRC plus, 7 homers. Man, oh man. Now, despite just being a platoon bat, basically, he could be a huge pickup at the deadline for a team looking for another lefty bat in the lineup. At number 5, I got a couple of Pirates starting pitchers. And unfortunately, I'm not talking about Paul Skeens, but can we please find a way to save Paul Skeens from the Pittsburgh Pirates? My goodness, 14-28 as of right now, 10 back in the division, 10 back in the wild card. A huge disappointment for the Pirates so far this year. Great pitching, but this team can't hit. They need to completely revamp this organization. I'm just saying. But they do have a couple of arms that I definitely think could be up for grabs at the deadline. And again, I wish it was Paul Skeens, but he's just going to be too expensive to move, and I don't see the Pirates wanting to move him. I do think they would like to have someone like Paul Skeens over the next couple of years while they try to figure things out. But they do have a couple other guys. You got Andrew Heaney, who's off to a pretty solid start so far this year. 8 starts, 45 2/3 innings pitched, ERA at a 3.15, FIP at a 4.20. A guy that could be a pretty decent back end of the rotation arm for you. He's on a cheap 1-year deal, so I could see the Pirates flipping him somewhere to get back a prospect or two. And then you got Mitch Keller. Now, they did sign into an extension which started last year in 2024. It does run through 2028, so I wonder what the chances are of them moving him. But if they did want to clear some payroll and get back, a pretty decent package, then I think Keller could be up for grabs. ERA is at a 4.40, but the FIP is lower at a 3.69. This guy's been very steady over the last couple of years, so I could see the Pirates getting some phone calls about Keller. I could definitely see them getting phone calls for Andrew Heaney, and honestly, I definitely think they'll get phone calls about Paul Skeens too, but I just don't think he's going to get moved. I could definitely see Keller and Heaney, though. At number 4, I got Zach Eflin, and again with the Orioles, who knows what happens with them over the next couple of months, but if they continue to fall out of it, then I definitely think they'll get a phone call or two at least on Zach Eflin, who they got at last year's trade deadline in a trade with the Rays, but right now he's in the final year of a 3-year, $41 million deal, so he would be a rental at this year's deadline. He has had a couple of injuries so far this year, only made 4 starts, but with Eflin, we know this guy can be one of the more solid pitchers in the game when healthy. So far, 3.13 ERA, FIP at a 3.63. So I think as of right now, you got to consider him as a solid rental candidate by this year's deadline. At number 3, let's stick with the Orioles, and I got Cedric Mullins. Now, he popped up in trade rumors last year, ended up staying put with the Orioles, but the difference with this year is he's in the final year of arbitration, so he's going to be a free agent after this coming season. Now, he's off to a pretty decent start this year. He's only hitting 229, but he's got a 340 on base, a 435 on the slug. slugging, a 126 WRC plus. And with Mullins, we all know this guy's got some pop and he's got some speed. He's going to play some pretty decent defense in center field, 7 home runs, 6 stolen bases so far on the year. And I think with Enrique Bradfield Jr. down to the minor leagues, who could be ready sooner rather than later, and if the Orioles keep playing the way they're playing, then I think Mullins could be a prime candidate to get moved at the deadline. At number 2, I got Luis Robert Jr. And like I've said a million times on this channel, when healthy, this guy's one of the most talented players in the game, a guy that can hit for power, good speed, good defense out in center field. Now, with Robert, the good thing so far is he's healthy. 37 games played so far, but the numbers aren't looking all that great. Only hitting 186, a 293 on base, a 326 on the slugging, a 78 WRC plus. But with Luis Robert, he had been hitting a bit better as of late. He's gone cold a bit over the last 7 games, only hitting 174 over that time. But over the last 15 games, hitting 245, a 333 on base, a 434 on the slugging. And one thing I've noticed with Luis Robert this year is the plate discipline is a lot better. Now, he's still getting a lot of swing and miss, a lot of strikeouts, but he's walking the most than he ever has in his career, in the 84th percentile in walk percentage. Now, bat speed is still looking great. Barrel percentage is looking very solid. So I think he's kind of maybe just working through a couple of things right now. I'm not really worried about Luis Robert moving forward. So we have been hearing his name popping up a lot in the rumor mill over the last couple of weeks. I think with the White Sox, they'd rather move him sooner than later, just in case another injury happens, but he's going to have to start picking it up here. I think he will, but if the numbers don't improve, I'm going to have to move him down on this list. And I also think with Luis Robert, if he gets traded to a team in contention, then maybe that can kind of light a fire at him a little bit, get the juices going a little bit more. I'd be very curious to see what he could do on a playoff contender. And at number 1, I got Sandy Alcantara. Now, here's another guy off to a slow start this year. Now, he did just come back from Tommy John, but my goodness, the numbers are looking terrible. What the heck is going on here? 8 starts, 36 2/3 innings pitched, ERA at an 8.10, FIP at a 5.62. My goodness, what the heck is going on with Sandy? Now, the big difference with Sandy so far on the year is the command. 5.1 walks per 9 on the year. That is way up from his career average. He's giving up a lot more home runs this year, 1.7 home runs per 9. So I'm thinking he's just trying to work through some things as of right now. Like I said, just came back from Tommy John, so probably still trying to work off some rust. That's kind of what I'm thinking, because the velo is still looking pretty good. The stuff is still looking pretty good for the most part. He's probably just working on some mechanical things. I think in the end, he's going to be okay, but I'll leave him in the number 1 spot right now, despite the numbers. Let's see what he can do here over the next month. But everybody, that's my list. Tell me what you think down below. Did I leave anyone off? Do you think anyone should be higher or lower on this list? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. But everyone, that's all I got for right now. If you can on the way out, hit the like button for me, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.